goals. But then you fast forward to that 80-year-old man or woman who's built significant business. They got a lot of resources. They don't have the time,
right?
But they have the resources and the relationships and the wisdom. Now you take those two things and you partner them together, and you have someone that has significant resources, wisdom, and network, and someone who has a lot of time. And if they're both open to being mentored by one another, it becomes a generational impact, because really at the end of the day, they're both mentoring each other. Welcome to the Leadership Table podcast. My name is Chad Reyes, and I'm here with my beautiful wife and business partner, Danielle Reyes. And we are so excited for this conversation we're going to have today. Today, we're going to be talking about empowering generations of leaders and what it means, how we do it, and how it can inspire all that you're doing as a leader. So I can't wait to have this conversation with my wife and jump into it and just really add so much value to your life. So we're gonna jump on in.
Let's go.
Let's go. Come on.
I'm excited, as you could hear. No, all right. So we've been working together for 2 decades now.
It is crazy that we started in 2006. Yeah, 20 years ago.
Yep. And I know the topic is very important to us. Empowering generations. Generations always been on our heart. For you, though, what is the phrase empowering generations of leaders? What does it actually mean? Not in theory, but like in real life. Yeah. Where did our journey start?
You know, when I think about it, and you know this, but when I think about empowering generations of leaders, I think about that you can't just impact one generation and be able to see real fruit from it. You know, I mean, listen, you could do it, but it doesn't have lasting impact. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I think that you and I have always had our heart for was the younger generation, the next generation. And that was the launching of I Am Empowering. What I realized was when Joe Matera shared something with us, I realized something, that every generation has its what's the word I'm looking for? Has its benefits. Mm-hmm. You know, like some generation, like a younger generation, they have their youth. So if you're 13, 14, 15, you have a lot of time, you have a lot of youth, right? And if you're 80, you still have the ability to empower generations. It just looks different. You know, you don't have as much time left on the earth, but you have more wisdom and you have more resources. And if you're in your 30 to 50, you know, you're in an area, in a range where you're in maybe some of your peak earning years, mm-hmm. some of your, you know, growing a family. So I think that when you and I, you know, it's funny because as you walk it out, things get clearer to you, mm-hmm. right? Like the phrase empowering generations of leaders wasn't when we first started 20 years ago. What it was is we just wanted to make a difference. We wanted to make a difference in one kid's life.
Yeah, it was on our heart, but we didn't have the words yet to express what it was that we wanted to do.
Yeah. So when I think of empowering generations of leaders in my heart, and I'd love to then get your opinion, I think of it as lasting impact, lasting change happens when you empower all the generations. So the younger generation, the youth, mm-hmm. the young adults that are in college, the business leaders that are in the marketplace, and then very successful families that have built significant wealth. And then how do they empower generations? So that's my view of empowering generations. It's a multi-generational approach, and it requires a lot of people to pull it off.
Yeah. Well, when we started out with individuals, right? Mm-hmm. It was a age range, right, of what, like 40 to 60, I would say. But we were in our 20s.
Yeah.
And coming from being in our 20s, I remember my background is my family had family businesses, right? And I was working from a young age. So we were helping adults, right, that were protecting their family. Yeah. And our heart was really like us thinking in our 20s, our youth actually helped us here, where we wanted to form and say, how do we help the generation coming after them, right? Like we were just coming out of that family, you know, with our parents. We were just stepping out into a whole world, right? We were young to have that on our heart.
Do you remember, for those that are listening, we're talking about our generational planning firm, Wealth and Legacy Group. But do you remember when we were having a conversation with our client, Bob, Remember what he
Yes.
said to me? Because at that time I was probably late 20s. He said, I got socks that are older than you. Right.
Yes.
And the truth of it is that he was right, because when I think about it and I think about what that meant back then, we had a dream to make a difference generationally, but we didn't have the experience and we didn't have the wisdom. And it's a blessing, the journey we've been on, because I think it only gets better from here and the impact only gets bigger and lives get more transformed and positively impacted. But when you're younger, when you're in your late teens, early 20s, I, I think people, ignorance is bliss, because you think you could do everything. And you don't, and honestly, for us, I didn't even think about like, well, what happens if it didn't work?
Right.
Right. Like it not working was never an option. Quite honestly, in the very beginning, we probably should have been bankrupt because
we probably were at some point.
Yeah,
just didn't
we just didn't declare it.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's the point of being ignorant, right?
Right.
When you're ignorant at times, it's just like, well, you could accomplish anything. And now you fast forward 20 years and you're like, wow, that ignorance has actually turned into a great asset.
Right. Well, I used to say God is using my ignorance right now to just impact the lives. We were just so ambitious, and our clients were much older than us.
Yeah. And they still are.
They are, I know. But then too, they were attracted to the knowledge and the heart and the vision of what we had. And we did help them at such a young age, which was a gift.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we overcame that ignorance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll move on to, was there a moment where you realized, if we don't do this intentionally, the next generation will pay the price?
Yeah, that's good.
I know that was my thought.
Well, I think one of the things that impacted me was Bishop Joe's, our spiritual dad, the conversations that he had with us about God is a generational God, right? And when you look in the scriptures, nothing that's in the scriptures is ever one generation. It's always 3 generations or more. Right. And I'll tell you, until he started sharing that, I really didn't think like that. I thought through the lens of building success. You and I were like, all right, we just want to build a successful business. But when he shared that in 2008 or 2009, it really shifted something in me. And at that same time, we had watched the movie The Ultimate Gift. Or we read the book, I think, first, right? And then we watched the movie in 2009.
Well, I read the book and kind of dictated it to you until the movie came out.
But between the movie, The Ultimate Gift,
yes,
and Bishop Joe's talking to us about thinking generationally, something shifted in us where I realized, to your point, that if we don't step up and do something, it is going to be, listen, are we going to be able to impact every child and every youth through our not-for-profit? No, but what happens is, and I wrote about it in our book, you start walking and the vision gets clearer. So that start walking where we started investing in a small group of youth, which was probably one of our greatest dreams and memories, right?
Yes.
Kind of created where we're at today.
All right. Don't get me emotional, please. I know. It's been definitely a long journey, and our heart and our mission and our vision has never changed. The organizations just have grown.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember saying that you and I, the first event we ever did at I Am Empowering, I remember we only had 6 kids, and it was impactful because I remember us saying that we're going to speak to the 6 as if there was 6,000.
Yes.
And, you fast forward today, and with our leadership curriculum, it's in schools, school districts taking on our leadership curriculum. There's thousands and thousands of kids that are being impacted by our leadership principles that started with those 6.
Right.
So it's powerful.
It's very. So, what's a leadership? Let's shift a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You good?
Yep.
What's a leadership failure early on that became a defining lesson we now pass on to emerging leaders?
Yeah. You know,
Resilience.
failure is not final.
Mm-hmm.
I think is it. You know this, but our audience may not know. But at 21 years old, right, I went bankrupt.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 7. And at that moment, you felt like there was no chance. Like I couldn't even think of beyond the month, beyond the week. Like I couldn't think of it.
Mm-hmm.
So at that moment, that failure was final because my future was duller than my past. I couldn't see the future. But once I realized that failure is part of the journey, it changes everything. Because a lot of the younger generation, they don't understand that failure is part of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
They think that failure defines them. And because in the beginning it did define me, but failure is just a piece of the journey. And I think for the next generation, the youngest generation, if there was anything that I would want them to really understand, is that if you can embrace failure and it's not your identity, you can do such amazing things in your life because you'll be willing to try stuff. You'll be willing to do things. You'll be willing to test stuff. But we have a generation, this is my concern, is we have a generation that wants to sound smart than be smart.
Mm-hmm.
We have a generation that wants to sound successful than be successful. We have a generation that
want the shortcuts.
Want shortcuts and
don't want to put in the work, but want the success.
And they don't learn
Mm-hmm.
from their failures, so they repeat it. And so that would be that's what I would like to see, is that the next generation, 13 to 30,
Mm-hmm.
25, 30 would really embrace failure. It's not a bad thing. It actually is one of the greatest things that God gives us to help us grow, but it's not taught in school. Most families don't talk about
Mm-hmm.
it. Most businesses cover it up. Failure is such a key to the success of life. If we can embrace it and really, really understand what it really is, it's just a way to grow.
Yeah. Well, we just heard our friend and mentor, John, just talk about how the next generation, the emerging leaders, don't have great leadership.
Yeah.
Right? They don't have a lot of people to mirror in great leadership. And I feel like that's part of our mission. Our heart is to develop the leaders around us so that the emerging leaders and next generation can be impacted by great leaders. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to blanket state that the whole generation is like that. Meaning like they look for the shortcuts, or they're not as ambitious or resilient.
Can I speak to that for a moment?
Sure.
Finish and then I'll...
Well, funny thing, my mom actually had just sent my siblings and I a video of how, a snowstorm's coming. That'll date where we are right now. And, it was the whole thing of like moms in the 1980s and 1990s, right? There was no snow days. They put on our snow boots, they bundled us up, and they literally just, pushed us out and was like, okay, get to the school bus. And we were talking about how even the snow was like an obstacle course just to get there. And then it was a quiet day. Like the generation now has become a little more fearful of those things. Yeah. And right now we are having a big storm. But sometimes it's the little things, and it's just that it's the environment that we're in that we want to build back up. We want to build that resilience. We want to build that leadership capacity, the resilience.
Yeah. To that point, it's how the next generation learns, because they're taught in school So if the school system's not teaching resilience
Right.
and failure and how to grow through failure and how to lead well, if it's not happening in the school system, then where is it going to happen? Because
Right.
that's where the generation of your leaders and companies and not-for-profits and faith-based ministries, that's where they come from. And I think to yours and my point, part of the reason why we feel such a burden for this next generation is because of that, is because if you can invest in them and they can grow and develop and build resiliency and learn how to fail, failure is not a bad thing if you learn how to fail.
Right. Well, you're taught not to fail. I mean, you really are in school too, right? If somebody's having trouble in school, it's looked upon as such a negative, bad thing. So from the time, listen, if they're not building it up in their homes, their children, when they go to the school system, is looked at as a failure. If they are failing, they're not looked at, okay, you failed this. And
well, think about it. You can only reproduce who you are. So if you have a school system that the teachers and the principals and the district superintendents, and this is for all over the United States, are covering up failure, are not talking about how to grow, they don't know how to communicate, well, you're going to have a generation of kids that don't know how to communicate, that don't want to cover up failure. So it really has to start with empowering the teachers, empowering the principals, empowering the district superintendents, and empowering the students. And that's what I love about what we do at John and our, in our not-for-profit that goes into schools.
Right.
It's that we're planting a seed that one day will bear tremendous shade. I love Warren Buffett's, quote. He says, someone's sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. And that's what I think our heart is, and what I would love for other leaders to say is, wow, my responsibility is not just to be successful. Being successful is phenomenal, but my responsibility is to be successful and to invest in the next generation. And that's where I think we'll see the greatest fruit, we'll see the greatest impact, because when young men and women learn how to lead well, when they learn how to communicate well, when they know that their identity is not attached to something that didn't work, they're going to be healthy when they get marriages, when they get into business, when they get into corporate America, when they're in their ministries or not-for-profits. But the school system is so key, and I just want to bring it full scale. That's why the younger generation is so key. But then we can go fast forward. And at Wealth and Legacy Group, we work with a lot of very successful, wealthy matriarchs and patriarchs, right?
Well, if we could just pause right there and you could go into that, but can you share the different tiers of how we help empower generations of leaders?
So with the younger generation, the 13, even actually from 3rd grade to 12th grade, we go into school systems and we partner with the school system, with the principals and the district superintendents to resource them with leadership curriculum, right?
That's our nonprofit.
That's our not-for-profit.
I am empowering.
Yep. But then we have a leadership and business coaching company, Lions Pride Leadership, that goes in and empowers businesses to have effective leaders so they could be more effective in developing their leaders and growing their organizations and being profitable. And then we have our generational planning firm, Wealth and Legacy Group, which is really about helping these very wealthy families that have created significant wealth, but helping them understand that how do they become intentional generationally with all the future with younger generations, because each generation has a pro and a con.
Right.
And maybe I'll talk through that right now, because the younger generation has time.
Yep.
They got time. So if they're 13 or 18 or 20, they got a long runway ahead of them. So they got a lot of time, but they don't have wisdom. They don't typically, I'm not going to say they all don't have wisdom, but they have less wisdom typically at that age than they will at 30, 50, 80.
Right. Because they don't have the experience. So wisdom is applied knowledge. They could have the knowledge. They may have not had the experience, but the experience gives them wisdom. Yeah,
so there's that. They haven't built up their relationships in business and their social networks, right? So they don't have that level of relationships of influential people that are in their connections. And they typically, as a young age, don't have much financial resources.
Right.
So when you look at that, they have a lot of time, but they don't have some of those others. But then you fast forward to that 80-year-old man or woman who's built significant business. They got a lot of resources. They don't have the time,
Right.
but they have the resources and the relationships and the wisdom. Now you take those two things and you partner them together, and you have someone that has significant resources, wisdom, and network, and someone who has a lot of time. And if they're both open to being mentored by one another, it
Yes.
becomes a generational impact, because really at the end of the day, they're both mentoring each other. This young child, student, male, female, what they have is they understand technology probably better than the senior generation, but they can't afford to buy the technology to the level. So when you marry them together and these two generations work together, it becomes powerful. And that's what empowering generations of leaders does. And I'll just share this last piece. Our company, AI Matrix Solutions, which is our AI company, the reason why that's important, and it sounds crazy, but all of it is empowering generations of leaders, because what AI does, if you understand it and you can put it through a healthy lens, like we do, we go around the world and talk about it, is what AI really does is it allows people to use information differently. It allows people to steward their time better. Is there bad actors out there? Are there people that are going to use it and manipulate people? 100%.
Yes.
But that's been since the founding of our nation.
Yeah. Any technology put in the hands of someone that they're going to either use it for good or for evil.
It's really the person who's using it.
Yep.
If they have a good motives, they're going to use it for good reasons. If they have bad motives, they're going to use it for bad reason. But if you think about this and you look at our organizations, it really is about just empowering generations of leaders to be effective.
Right.
And you have to be able to see where the future's going. That's what great leadership is. I love when John Maxwell says this, right? He says leaders see more and they see before. And if they don't have character and they don't have good motives, they manipulate people because they can see more and before.
Right.
But if they have good character and they have good motives, when they see more and before, they use that to make a difference in people's lives.
Right. Yeah, I love that. And it's also something that we have caught on to that's called reverse mentoring. Reverse mentoring is
Very
so powerful and important. And I think the older generation doesn't recognize. Some of them do. Actually, the ones that do, I get super excited about when you hear an older gentleman sit at like the feet of a youth and just listen to what they can teach them and what they could show them. And that's reverse mentoring, because as a mentor for many generations, we'll go there, right? For many generations, a mentor is somebody who's older, wiser, has experience, can walk the path with you. But now in this generation, more than ever, we have a generation that knows things that were just born intuitively, instinct of how to use technology that the older generations will never understand to their ability, but can utilize it.
Well, to that point, I think as a nation, we've done a terrible job. And I hate to say that, but I'm going to really blanket statement this. We've done a terrible job in the Western culture of mentoring. In the Eastern culture, they do a phenomenal job of it. It's built into families' DNA. It's built into companies' DNA. But in the Western culture, we live in such an I-centered world, a me world that...
iPhone.
Yeah, the iPhone, I mean, the iRobot. I mean, all of these things is... But what happens is that it becomes so about the person that you think that a mentor... you almost, in the United States, a mentor has to be someone that's older than you. But truthfully, the real definition of a mentor is someone who has done something and are further along in their journey than where you are. So that has nothing to do with age.
It's a great definition.
Our nephew, Carmine, he brought AI to us many years ago. And I knew about it.
Just the awareness
of it.
Right.
And all of a sudden, for a short period of time, he was my mentor.
Yep.
Because he knew more about in an area than I did. At that time, he was 14 years old.
Right.
He knew more about that than you and I.
Yeah. I sat with him too. We'd sit and he'd literally share things and he even saw further than I think he even realized he knew, because it was really like such an intuitive season for them. And we also had another young gentleman that was working with us as well. And I remember sitting with him and just going through, what does it look like? What's being used now? Things that we didn't even know was being used for even fun that we could turn around and use it to implement for business, which was actually mind-blowing on both parts. Something we were sharing with them with the wisdom that we had of, wait a minute, we could utilize this actually here in the business. You're utilizing it, for school or for, gaming or. Yeah.
It would just, a wish of mine would be that mentorship was never looked at it through a lens of age. It was looked at through a lens of maturity.
Mm-hmm. As well said. I think, we've already covered this, but I do want to go in to one unintentional failing. But Abby, where do you think well-intentioned leaders are unintentionally failing the next generation?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think this is my opinion. I probably can put data to support all of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think parents live vicariously through their children. And I see it with my brother, with all the kids that he coaches. I see it with the youth that we've been around. I think parents innately they want the best for their kids. And I understand that. They have a deep love and nurturing way of wanting to protect their child.
You do.
But I will say this, that sometimes the greatest protection of a child is to prepare them for when you're not there. And that's one of the things that I think is a struggle, because I think a lot of people that love people, whether it could be a parent, but it could be an aunt and an uncle, it could be a teacher, it could be a coach, it could be a business leader. I personally, my opinion on leadership is you prepare people for when you're not there. So if you're preparing people for when you're not there, then a parent should be preparing the child for when they're not going to be there, so that child can grow into being mature, man or woman. So I think that's a big struggle, because I'm going to give an analogy here. I think what the older generation does is, because they want to see the best for their younger generation, they give everything to the younger generation. And in doing that, they rob them of the blessing of learning and failing and picking themselves back up. And I give the example, you and I talk about this all the time with families that we work in businesses, the caterpillar.
Yes.
So that the study that was done where the caterpillar was trying to get out and it was fighting to get out, and the person who was doing the test felt really bad for it because it saw the struggle that it was doing to fight to get out. So it cut the cocoon, and as he cut the cocoon, all of a sudden the caterpillar morphed into a butterfly, but the butterfly's wings weren't strong enough, so it took flight, and then it wound up falling and died, because the struggle of it fighting to get out of the cocoon is what built its wings so that it can survive and thrive. And that's what I think of when I think of parents or those that love the next generation. We have to be there to love them, but we can't become the crutch for them. If we love them, we're going to allow them to fail, and then we'll be there to pick them up. And then when they fail, we can have a conversation of why and what happened. But too many people are trying to protect their children from failing because they think if their children fail that they're a failure as a mom or dad. And that's not true.
That is good.
It's not truth. What you're failing is when you don't allow your kids, or you don't allow those that you love to fail, and you've created now this false facade that they can't fail, because then when they do fail, they don't have the strength to pick themselves up.
Well, we had a client of ours who said a line to me. We were just in conversation, and it struck a chord, and I knew exactly what we were doing to empower generations when he said this.
Yeah.
He said he's now going on to the third generation within his business. And he said to me, Danielle, I don't want my children, my nephew, to go through what I had to, what my dad had to.
Yeah.
But if they had to go through it, I want them to be able to.
Yeah.
Well, now that's so powerful.
Yeah, if you think about it, right? Think of the Army, the Navy, the military, the Navy SEALs. You don't prepare them because you're going into war. You prepare them if they do go into war.
Right. Right.
In the United States, thank God, for many years have not been in war, but we've prepared our soldiers. If we are going to war, they have to be able to defend themselves.
So let's talk about that, though.
Yeah.
How does a parent, how does a leader do that? I really do. I love what he said. He said, I don't want them to have to go through what I went through. He said, but if they had to, if something did happen, I want them to be able to. So for them to be able to, there's something intentionally we have to do as leaders to help equip them.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about it in business, right? Through the lens of coaching entrepreneurs and corporate executives, right? You got to give people the ability to know that when they make a decision, there's a consequence to it. Because if they can make a decision and there's no consequence to it, then what happens is that they don't ever feel the ramifications of a good decision or a bad decision. So thinking about that in context of business, we have to empower our people to be responsible for outcomes. Because if they're not responsible for outcomes, then you as the business owner or you as the leader of that division are going to subsidize everything to make sure it works. We have a generation of people that don't want to be accountable anymore.
Right.
They don't want to be accountable. They look at accountability as if it's a bad thing. Accountability is God's way of saying, my son or daughter, you are now have the ability to steward what I've given you. That's accountability. It's a stewardship issue. It's
he says you need to be disciplined too and corrected. Not a soft, somebody just recently said to us too, the two words of kindness and nice.
Yeah.
Right? What is the difference of kindness and nice? And kindness is sharing something, sharing truth in love.
Yeah.
And I think that's powerful.
Yeah. So I think that as a generation, business leaders, we have to empower our people, and we got to give them the ability to fail, and not create an environment where if they fail, they get scolded. Create an environment that when you fail, we learn and we grow.
Love that.
It's really, really that simple.
All right. I love it. I think we're coming to a close.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would like to leave with them? We covered a lot, and honestly, I had so much more. This topic, obviously, it's everything that we do. It's everything that we build. It's everything that we are so passionate for. It's our mission.
Yeah.
So I have a lot. So I think we're going to have a take 2, 3, 4, 5 somewhere down the line. But what is something that you would leave with the leaders out there, because it's the leaders of organizations that are having multiple generations in their organization.
Yeah.
And it's even parents, those leaders too, and those people in the organization is also a mom and a dad. So what is one thing that they could take away from this talk?
Yeah. The greatest gift, this is mine. The greatest gift we give the world is how we show up and lead. How we show up and lead ourselves, how we show up and lead others that report to us and we're responsible for, how we lead our family, how we lead our companies. I think that the word leadership has always been deflective in nature. Well, I lead them, and no. Let's start with leading yourself well. Let's start with you doing the things that will allow you to lead yourself well, so others around you say, wow, I like what's in that guy or that woman. I can see that there's something different about them. We have a generation that talks about leadership of what others should be doing instead of what I should be doing.
Right.
That would be my advice. Whether you're a teenager trying to get ahead in life, lead yourself well. If you're a business leader trying to empower your team, lead yourself well. If you're a father or a mother who's trying to lead your family well, lead yourself well. Right. And if you're a very successful entrepreneur or business owner that have built something, lead yourself well. And if you lead yourself well, everyone around you will catch what's inside of you.
That's very good. Very good.
That's all I got to say.
I know we grew up talking about generations. We grew up in a generation that says do what I say, not as I do. But what we're saying is have your children have the younger and even older generation that you are the leader of stewarding, and have them mimic what you do and who you are as a leader.
Yeah.
So you have to lead yourself well to lead others.
Yeah.
And thank you for leading us well.
My pleasure.
We thank you guys for joining the leadership table. And until next time, you have anything else?
No, just thank you for coming on the journey. Just lead yourself well. It's the greatest gift you'll give everyone that you love.
And share, like, and comment so that you can help us help others and get this message out there. Love you guys. Thank you for joining us and taking your time. We know your time is valuable, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye-bye.
You're listening to the Leadership Table. I am so excited that you've joined us. Hey, listen, you want to join us in future episodes where we're going to invite some of our greatest friends, some of the greatest leaders we know, to share all about their leadership journeys and just add tremendous value to you and your teams. Hey, listen, drop a comment below on your biggest takeaway, what is impacting you the most. Like it. Share it with those people that you know need to hear this message. And subscribe. And hey, listen, turn on the notifications. I just want to thank you because you are making a difference. As you help us, we help you. And we just divide the work and multiply the impact. My friend, thank you for joining us on the Leadership Table.